I'm Jennifer Hurvitz, and welcome to Doing Relationships Right. Raw, authentic, and insightful, this podcast is a no bullshit look at relationships during midlife. It's not just talk, it's practical advice you can use, stressing self-improvement and personal growth. This podcast guides you in navigating online dating, building resilience, and finding the right partner for a fulfilling and healthy relationship. Have questions that need answering? No worries, I've got you. And we'll figure it all out together without taking ourselves too seriously here on Doing Relationships Right. Good morning. Good morning. This is Jennifer Hurvitz. How are you? This is Doing Relationships Right, and I'm your host every week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, I don't know, whenever I feel like putting up an episode. But today I always say, super excited. I am excited. I'm thrilled. I'm excited for you all, my listeners, to, take advantage of what I've got going on today. I've got a pretty special guest here. Yes. So this is Nikki Tucker. Right, Nikki? I said that right?
Yep.
Nikki Tucker. Right. Oh, yay. I'm going to read your bio. Is that okay with you?
Absolutely.
Here's a bit about Nikki. Nikki is, I love this. If a financial counselor and a personal organizer decided to create the perfect lab love child. Geez, Jen, it would be Nikki Tucker. Yay. She's a mom, a financial professor, and I can't read today. I'm going to have to start this over, but you know what? Sienna's going to knock. She's not going to do it. She's going to say, Jennifer, keep going. I will. Okay. She's a mom and a financial professional who firmly believes that all women deserve financial security, which I love. Going through a separation or divorce is hard enough. Yes, it is. And when a woman's financial security is threatened, the stress can become overwhelming. We all know this. If you're a listener, you probably know. Nikki's goal is to help women feel confident, inspired, and ready to take control of their financial futures during one of the most difficult times of their life. Thank you for being here, Nikki. How are you?
I am doing great, and thank you for having me. I am actually excited, just like you, about this conversation.
I think it's important.
Absolutely.
I think that if I would have had you when I was going through my divorce, things would have been a lot different.
I hear that very often, actually.
Do you? I bet you do.
I do.
I feel like the first phone call when you get separated should be to a financial planner or a CDFA, right? I mean,
someone that can talk to you about the numbers and the money, because quite honestly, that's the biggest piece very often. So it's always money and children, right?
Absolutely.
And if you don't have kids, then it's just money.
Just the money. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I think my listeners are going to be super inspired today, you guys. And let's talk about tackling financial freedom in life and all that good stuff. So I have some questions. First of all, understanding your money story. I don't think I ever understood my money story. I think it's probably the problem with me. I grew up I paid for everything after college, and I had a yellow, legal pad where I'd write down everything. I never learned. We never learned. I'm old, so you're much younger than me, but I feel like I never learned how to do it. So what are some tips? What do you think? Tell me where you started, how this all became you, and what's going on.
Well, I've always been in love with finance and numbers, literally since I was a little kid. So I'm a very happy money nerd and proud of it.
I love that.
And I think that it ties in well to my own money story, because I was raised primarily by my grandparents. So I had my mother and my father, but we didn't always live in the same house. And my parents were never married, actually.
Okay.
And so similar to many children who grew up in the 80s, there was a lot of things that I had to do independently or on my own. Okay. And I started working when I was 14, and I've been working ever since. Okay.
Yes, I feel that. I do. I'm thinking about all the jobs I had and how I wish that I would have done things earlier, like start a IRA or 401k. Nikki.
Well, and that's a big part of it, because my parents didn't talk to me about those things. My grandparents definitely didn't, just because their experiences were different and they didn't know a lot about that stuff. So I found myself figuring out a lot of it on my own. And I actually started teaching financial literacy classes when I was in college.
Wow.
I've taught kids as young as first grade all the way through like adult GED programs, financial literacy programs for seniors, done a lot of those things. And then later I started getting certifications and my degrees in finance. So when I tell you that it's kind of my thing, it's my thing.
It is your thing. Okay, good. You know what? I'm glad you're here because I think a lot of us need your thing. I'll tell you. So as far as money stories go, like what does that have to do with all this? Where do you think it starts?
It starts with the experiences that you have growing up and throughout your entire life, quite honestly, and the feelings and the emotions that come up when you have to handle money, when you have to deal with money, when you have to talk about money. You see that face you're making right now?
I'm cringing. I'm
right,
cringing.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
And there are a lot of people that have reactions similar to that because it can be very uncomfortable to talk about money. It feels very personal, and there are things that people don't want to share. And so it's important when you're talking about relationships. We're very comfortable being intimate, physically intimate.
Yep.
But we are not comfortable being financially intimate, which is hilarious in a sense when you think about it.
You know, I never even thought about it. Like, you know, I talk about intimacy all the time, emotional and whatever, being vulnerable. But you're right. Like, I really felt uncomfortable talking about money. And I think I still do. I don't know. But where does that, it stems from just the fact that I didn't talk about it as a child and I had no idea. Numbers weren't my thing. And I remember my dad losing his job over and over again, but they didn't talk about it, getting new jobs. And it's just it's different, I think. Right?
It is different. It's going to be different for every individual, but there also are some common themes. And I think some of the things that you just mentioned are part of those common themes. So very often you did not talk about it regularly when you were growing up. When you get into the workforce, particularly in corporate America, you're told not to talk about money. You don't share your salary with your colleagues.
Right.
All of these things are very secretive. And then when you make mistakes, which a lot of young people do, as well as adults, when you make mistakes, then there's this sense of shame that comes along with those decisions that you made that didn't serve you well. And all of those things go into your money story. And so it's really, bottom line, just the experiences and all of the emotions that tie into how you feel about money. And it has a direct impact on your day-to-day life and also your relationships. You cannot get away from it.
You can't. But when do you think we should start talking about it in relationships? Right away? Do we ask for their credit score? Do we, you know what I'm saying? I have clients that say to me, Jen, I don't know if I'm, what I'm supposed to talk about. I'm like.
So part of figuring out if you're compatible is determining if you're financially compatible.
Okay.
And so while I don't think you necessarily want to talk about money on the first date, you probably shouldn't wait until after you get engaged to have discussions about it. But some people do. Some people keep kicking the can down the road and they're just like, well, they have a home, they have a car, I know enough information to be dangerous. They have a job and that's good enough for me. And so finding out someone's credit score is like table stakes. That doesn't really tell you. It tells you something, but it doesn't really tell you the full story. And so having multiple discussions on a regular basis is what's helpful, and starting very early. So like we just talked about, part of your money story could be that you didn't have conversations about money growing up. Well, part of the way that you change that is that in your relationship, you start having money conversations very early on in your relationship so that it feels normal. And it becomes a good habit. So you're setting dates on the calendar to say, September 6th, we're going to go down in the basement if you stay at home, or we're going to a sexy hotel and then we'll have some drinks and we'll have appetizers. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You create whatever scene you want to. We're going to the park because the sun's out, there's trees, there's nature, and it feels safe. And we're going to put down a blanket and have a conversation. It can be whatever scene you need it to be, as long as it's intentional.
And I think that's way healthier than it becoming a fight. I remember, my husband, my ex-husband, I call him my husband, we fought. That was the fights that we had were either the kids or money. And it was I never wanted to talk about it because every time I did, it would end up in a bad place, the conversation. So what do we do? Some tips on that, how to approach it or...
Yeah. So again, coming back to the compatibility state, you have to ask very simple questions like, are you comfortable talking about money? So if you're just starting to date someone, it seems like a silly question, but it actually will tell you a lot. Are you comfortable talking about money? If the person responds and says, no, I'm not comfortable, that's not a deal breaker per se. However, then you need to figure out why. And so that's when you can use a very simple tactic that they use when it comes to communication is 5 whys. So why? Why are you not comfortable talking about money? You'll probably get a really superficial surface answer the first time. And then you ask another why, second why. Well, why is that? And then you may go a little bit deeper and then you ask third why. At some point, especially if this is the first time you've broached this, that person will probably push back and say, okay, I don't want to talk about this anymore, right? Which should not be a surprise because they already told you they were uncomfortable. However, you table this discussion in the moment and you come back to it. And you pick up on the why that you left off until you get to the 5th why. And you may not need to go all the way to the 5th one. You might find out what the root cause is around the 3rd or 4th why. But once you figure that out, then you kind of build on that to say like, oh, well, like you said, every time I had a conversation in my previous relationship, we had a fight. My response would be, well, if we could figure out a way not to fight about money, would you be more comfortable having the conversation then? More than likely, they may say yes. And then you figure out how to create a safe space for the conversation to get the information you need.
I love that because you say, actually, I think this is something you say, because I did a little research, that being financially compatible, is more important than love. Do you think?
I say screw love. Are you finding?
That's right. I love it. I was like, this is my girl. Yeah.
And let me be very clear. Please. I love love. Okay. I am a hopeless or a hopeful romantic, depending on what day you get me. However, I am very practical. And what I understand is that there's the relational side, the relationship side of being in a relationship. And then there's the business side. And we spend an awful lot of time on the relational, emotional side of being with a partner, not the transactional business side. Usually when people's relationship doesn't last, it often is because of the business side. Like one of the top reasons people get a divorce is about money.
You're so right.
You can't just skip over it. So it's cool if you're in love. I don't want you to marry someone you don't love, or I don't want you to date someone you don't love, but love is just not everything.
I agree. Oh, I love that you say this. I think it's awesome because listeners, listen to me. It is not everything. I totally agree with this. So you meet someone, you go out with them a couple dates, whatever, 3 months in, you notice that things are a little bit strange money-wise, like some red flags. Let's say, you can tell some red flags, but you notice red flags. Do you dump this person? I saw red flags in a guy I was dating, like immediately. And I was like, oh, it'll be fine. It wasn't fine. Yeah, it wasn't even close to fine. Okay. I was like, this is a problem, right? So how do you avoid getting in too deep?
I think it depends on what the red flags are. Okay.
Yes.
And this will also be kind of a case-by-case basis and kind of what you can tolerate or deal with. My general sentiment, I think regardless of personal situations, is if the red flags tie to character, that's a deal breaker for me. Versus if the red flag is just, I made a mistake because I didn't understand, I didn't know any better, I took a risk and it didn't work out for me, that's different. That's not a character issue. But if you're a thief, right? If you have stolen other people's information in the past, if you are adamant that everything is a scheme and you shouldn't have to pay bills and you shouldn't have to pay taxes or whatever, you're allowed to have that position. You're just not the right person for me. So you have to figure out what things you can deal with and what you can't. But it really comes down to character for me.
So I totally love that. So what if you realize, for example, he only pays with cash, or is that? Go ahead.
That may not be a bad thing. Now it's something to dig into and find out why. Okay. But I'll use my son as an example. He's in college and he is anti-debt and he is anti-credit card. Okay.
I love that. I wish that was me in college. What happened?
Me too. That was not me.
That was not me. Right.
So if you take him, just as a very simple example, he's more likely to pay in cash or with a debit card versus a credit card.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that that person is financially irresponsible. Okay. It's just their approach to how they manage money. So it's figuring out the why, again, behind the decisions that they're making to tell you a better story or tell you the story. And then you know how to
go from there.
Kind of go. Yep.
So do you think your son is the way he is because of you?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
I'm taking full credit.
What did you do differently? Like, I feel like it's so funny. I have one kid that's like your son. Yeah. And my other kid is like me.
Well, some of it has to do with his own, his innate personality.
Yes,
but
sure.
What we did very early on with my son was give him structure around money. So we gave him an allowance at a really early age, and it was a small amount of money, but it was just more so of building the habit of getting him used to dealing with money. We also gave him a framework around it. So we said, X% is for this, X% is for that, X% is for this. And this is how you have to budget your money every time we give it to you. Now, if you're 8, 9, 10 years old, you don't have bills. Okay. So it's like, what do you want to save? What do you want to give? And then if you want to buy candy, what's going in the pot for that? So he had 3 different banks in his room, just little coin banks in his room.
I screwed up. Nikki, I screwed up.
Again, everyone's approach could be different, but I'm a money person, so that's what we did.
Wait a minute, my husband is the same thing as you. My ex-husband.
He didn't do that? It's okay.
No.
It's okay.
No, he did not.
So, and you never know how it's going to work out. I just wanted to at least be able to plant the right seeds with him and make it comfortable for him to handle money. And now today, we talk about money and budgets all the time, and proactively he'll come to me and say, okay, this is how I'm going to spend this, and this is what I'm going to save, or he'll write down goals. We talked about like structuring his accounts. How many bank accounts do you need? 2 checkings, 2 savings, all of that. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. So you were saying, I interrupted you. I'm so sorry. He had three little thingies.
Yeah. And he just got used to allocating the money, because we gave him cash also, but allocating the money in the individual buckets. And then he could see dollars and coins building up in the physical bank in his room. And
it's
now,
fantastic.
Of course, he has a bank account, although there is still one little bank left in his bedroom, which he uses it too.
Come on. Cool. I love it. But I think that you're right. It definitely comes from home, like where you learned and where you grew up and how your parents talked about money and where what I'm saying? Like, this is like spot on. I love it. Okay. So keep going. I don't mean to how do you feel? Can I ask you another question? How do you feel about prenups?
Oh, I love them. I'm super pro prenup. Another thing that I talked to my college kid about, and now he is also pro prenup. But I think that they are more helpful than harmful. The taboo nature of the topic is because many people are misinformed about what they are and their purpose. And yes, there are stories about prenups that get thrown out or people fighting to try to get it thrown out. Yes, that happens, right? However, there are also prenups that make divorces very, very easy. And also prenups that can help a couple reduce the number of money fights that they have while they're married. So I always say getting a prenup is not indicative of you getting a divorce. There's no direct correlation to say that if you have a prenup, you're more than likely to get a divorce. There are not strong statistics on it, but the few that are out there, statistically, people who get divorces generally don't have prenups. So if I turn it around, I would say that if you have one, you're probably less likely to get a divorce. Only because, I just want to say, I think it's because you've had very transparent conversations on the front end of your marriage. You've made very intentional decisions about money, and like the mindset and the approach that your partner has going into this very, very important relationship.
Yeah. And I feel like so many people get so offended. It's such a personal thing, like an attack on them. Like, you don't trust me. I'm like, no, you need a prenup. Like, you just need it for every reason.
It is absolutely not about not trusting someone. And here's why I say this. In order to make a prenup legally binding where it won't be thrown out, you have to be very, very transparent. So you're disclosing all of this information.
That's a great point.
Before you get married. Okay. And so I have to trust that if I share all of this information with you, that you're still going to want to be with me, that you're going to handle this level of vulnerability with care, right? And that you're not going to do anything to harm me, because now I am financially naked and you know everything there is to know about me.
I love you. I think you're amazing. I never, like, that's how you have to approach it. You're right. You're being the most vulnerable for sure when you're talking about your money, right? And the debt and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's such a great point. I'm just thinking about it in my head going, that is like, I wish I woulda, coulda, shoulda, my second book, but like totally. I think that's amazing. So also my question, once you have a prenup, can you change it during your marriage?
Yes and no.
Okay, you're like, it's hard.
It's hard. Like
if something came up,
you would have, then it would become a post-nup.
Post-nup, right? That was my question.
So people can make changes that result in a post-nup, and I'm not an attorney and I don't play one on TV, but I know that that's generally what happens. Or if you don't have a prenup and then you decide to enter into a similar agreement after you're married, then it's a post-nuptial agreement, which states are different and weird about that, similar to marital laws. Yes. But it's one of the things that I love talking to clients about, because even though I'm a CDFA and I have the divorce lens, it's like, what better person to take information from than someone who can tell you exactly how to protect yourself, right? When you think about going to buy a car and you're trying to research and determine what's the best option, more than likely you're talking to a mechanic to say, what cars are you seeing in your shop all the time? Or what car do you not recommend that I purchase? So even though the mechanic is solely responsible for fixing what's broken, you rely on their expertise when you're shopping. Do the same thing with divorce coaches. Do the same thing with relationship experts and financial experts like myself or others who have the lens to say, here's what you need to do so you don't get into trouble or you don't get a divorce.
Like before.
Yes, before.
I mean, hello. It's like, I'm listening. I'm going, I wish that I would have, X, Y, or Z, but it's just so tough because sometimes you don't know. I tell my clients, you don't know what you don't know.
Absolutely.
But I really do feel like if you're fighting or you're going through a divorce or you're maybe talking about getting separated, I feel like you should be the first phone call. You will now be my client's first phone call. I'll be telling them.
I love that. I love that.
I just think it's amazing. I think that everybody should have a you. Everyone needs a Nikki, because I had no clue. And I really trusted my husband. Thank God he was kind and we were amicable and good friends, because otherwise I would have been totally screwed. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Which is so hard, because most of my clients are totally screwed because we don't know.
And most people are totally screwed. And that's why we do the work that we do. That's why you have this platform and the podcast and the books that you have. That's why I have the programs and have conversations like this, because fortunately or unfortunately, depending on what side you sit on, it's not set up in our society to have conversations like this before you walk down the aisle. Right. So no one gets married really understanding the divorce process if they've never gone through a divorce, which is somewhat crazy because it's super easy to get married, but it's super complicated to get a divorce.
Absolutely. That is so true. I really feel like also young people, like our kids' age in college, they are taking finance, if they're in financial classes and that kind of stuff. But otherwise, like, where they need to learn this, I feel like they need to go as an engaged couple. Like both my kids have girlfriends. They need to sit down with you. I'm going to have them sit down with you actually before they even think about getting married. I think it's just, you have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. The conversations are necessary. So we'll have to talk about how to figure this out.
That's what I'm telling you. You see my brain.
I do.
Like,
Yep.
wait a minute. This is too good. Like, that's what I think. I think that they come to me and they're like, I'm this and that in the relationship, but I can't help them with finances because it's not my wheelhouse.
And that's okay. There are plenty of resources like myself and others that are out there to help people get through the conversation because it's not comfortable.
Right.
And the baseline that people are starting at is different. So it's like, all right, if we can level set and get you on the same page, that's a good start.
Okay. I have one more question before you go.
Yep.
Do you believe in keeping your finances separate or putting them together?
Separate. Okay. Here's a caveat. Okay. Strong proponent of separate accounts. Joint accounts are fine, but not joint accounts if everything is joint. So I believe in joint and separate or just separate, but not everything joint. Part of the reason, again, divorce lens. If you're married, I don't want you to get a divorce. Let me make that very clear. Okay. I hope we never have to have a conversation.
Exactly.
However, there are too many horror stories and sad stories and frustrating stories about women in particular. It happens to men, but I primarily work with women. So women in particular who get screwed because their spouse or soon to be ex cuts off access to all of the accounts, cuts off access to a credit card, and everything was joint. Or one of the programs I have is called Silent Preparation Series, which means you need to prepare because you're considering divorce in silence. And you haven't told your spouse yet, you haven't told your family, but there are some money moves that you need to make, which means you need access to your own funds. If everything is joint and you're trying to set a little bit aside so that you can pay for a retainer for an attorney or hire a divorce coach, or maybe it's a violent situation and you need to rent an apartment and put down a deposit, you need money, period. So
that's an amazing program.
I'm a huge proponent of separate. And I guess you can have some joint accounts if you need them.
I mean, I didn't have anything. You're absolutely right. I remember going to the attorney, or we were with the mediator, we were mediating, and I was like, oh, I need to go and I was like, I don't even have a freaking credit card. Like, that is so frightful, like scary. And you just don't, you're right. You're absolutely right. That is, and being silent, you're right. And not talking about it with everybody in him and whoever.
Yeah. And even if you're happily married, again, we're not trying to make this everyone's going to get a divorce. If you're happily married, what's wrong with having some pocket money?
Agreed.
What's wrong with having autonomy over whatever little thing you want to buy without having to check in? Again, that doesn't mean you're not having money conversations and money date nights and making sure that you're on track for the plan that you have as a couple, your financial plan. But it's great to own your power as a woman.
Yes.
So let me spend my money how I want to.
Agree. And after, I feel like my second, I'm in a relationship now, but I've learned the hard way. And now when I was exiting my relationship, I actually had a prenup already signed up. And I didn't have a boyfriend. Like, my attorney was like, we're doing a prenup.
He's like,
we got to cover your kids. We got to cover you. We got, we don't. I said, I don't even have a boyfriend. I'm not even doing anything. I just got divorced. He said, I don't care. He said, we're doing a prenup. Isn't that
I love
great?
it.
I'm so proud. See, I did something right, Nikki.
You did. And that is rare, but it is incredible because now when you do have to have the conversation, you're like, I can handle this.
Oh, yeah. I told him.
I already know.
I did. I told him when we were dating for a year or something. I said, just so you know, if we ever do this, like anything serious, I have a prenup. He was like, what? I'm like, yep, I do. I got a prenup and my kids are going to be safe because I want to protect my kids, too. And I think that people just don't think, they're like so in love and so emotionally attached. And, this guy could never leave me. He could never hurt me. Look, I hope it never happens. Right. But my God, it's just got to cover your ass.
Well, and they're also mutually beneficial. So it doesn't just cover or protect one person. It's going to protect both of you. So if he has a home that he owns, and I've listened to your podcast, so I know that you all are together but live apart, which
I love you.
I'm totally on board with that too, but that's a different story. But he has a home and children and all of those things. So it is totally fair that he would want to protect them as well. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And it doesn't mean that you love each other any less or you trust each other any less. You're just thinking about the business side of the relationship.
I'm going to do better. I just decided I'm gonna get off this podcast. I'm gonna call Jim and we're gonna work it out. Because he has some serious like gripes with me. And I always like laugh and I get all like, because I'm nervous. And then I don't, he really is, he's like you. He wants, he's just very smart, like with his money. And I'm just very like, I can have this impulse shopping is like a big deal to me. Like I push send and I'm like, I won. I get a present. It's coming. It's like Christmas. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, Jen, you paid, like, you have bills, and I'm like, fuck. Okay. So yeah, we got to do better. I'm going to call you.
Yeah.
I think everyone should call you. I'll segue to that. Where do people find you? I'm going to put everything in the show notes, but basically.
Website for sure. That's Firm Approach. Firm has 2 I's.
Oh, Firm. We forgot to talk about that. That's the name of your program.
That is. So the name of the company is the Firm Approach, and it's 2 I's. And we have 2 programs. So we have the Silent Preparation Series, and that's for those who are considering divorce and you want to prepare and just do some of the work without making it public. And then we also have Bring Home the Bacon. And so Bring Home the Bacon is the post-divorce program, essentially, although if you're pre or during, you can still do it. But essentially, I say, we go out there, we make the bacon, we have to cook it, we have to fry it in the pan or whatever. And then we wash the pan too, right? And we do all the things to make the money or make the bacon. And it's exhausting. So that program just supports women. There's a course and digital things that they can get, but you have direct access to me to have conversations. And it's just about making strategic decision. So that's how I work with people. You can find me on thefirmapproach.com. There's a blog there, and then Instagram. I hang out there sometimes too, under the same name.
That's awesome. I really do appreciate you being here. You have no idea. Like, I feel like I've learned stuff. I know my listeners have. Listeners, listen to me. Please reach out to Nikki and get some help, and don't be in the position where you are, scared to talk about money. Or I've also felt like in my marriage too, like I was controlled. Like it was like a controlling thing. Like he didn't mean to, I don't think I was being controlled, but at the same time, like I had to check in. Like, he'd be like, oh, I saw that you got gas on the corner of 14. I'm like, how do you know that? Because a debit card would ding, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's just not, right?
That may work for some. It may not work for everyone. And if it doesn't work for you, and you're currently in the relationship, just recognize that you have the power to change it. And you might not be able to change it overnight, but you still have the power to change it.
I love it. Thank you for being here, Nikki. I appreciate you so much. You have no idea. This was really fun.
Thank you for having me.
Come back and we'll talk more about living apart together.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys, everyone, it was so fun. Check out everything in the show notes. Everything will be there. And when I leave, I say the same thing every time. Peace, love, and so much truth, you guys. Find something fun to do today and learn to balance your checkbook. Do people even have checkbooks anymore?
Some people.
I don't. Okay. I do somewhere. I don't know. Anyways, okay. Have a great day, everybody. Be good. And we'll see you soon. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Doing Relationships Right. Don't forget, if you love my content and want to show your support, subscribe, rate, and review it on your favorite podcast platform. And grab my books, Midlife Priceless, A Dating Coach's Guide to Finally Doing Relationships Right, Woulda, Coulda, Shoulda, and One Happy Divorce at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target.com, or my website, jenniferhurvitz.com. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Peace, love, and so much truth.